man. Let's talk about somebody who apparently isn't a dog, and that's Kyler, Kitty Cat Kyler. And I think that if they don't get this figured out in Arizona, they're gonna the killer K's are gonna be killed. Kyler.
They're gonna turn into the KKK.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
Which,
not
you
the
can't really
KKK.
be open about that.
No, yeah, the KKK is not accepted many places, but apparently in Arizona, Kyler, Kliff, and Steve Keim are there. And Kyler, there was some damning words that came out about Kyler. Pretty much,
Scrubbing his Instagram.
he scrubbed his Instagram. Then
unfollow the team. We've seen. You know what's crazy? We've seen this story before. We've seen players do this, and you know what happens? They're gone.
And apparently they said he's immature. He's a last guy in, first guy out type of person, finger pointer, doesn't take a lot of accountability for his actions. And I mean, he gives me prima donna vibes. I mean, just think about it. He's a top 10 prospect in baseball and football coming out of college.
Mm-hmm.
There's not much you can say to somebody like that, because they are so accomplished and they're so good at what they do. Most times when his team's lost, it wasn't his fault. It gets back to going through hard times. This man, hasn't lost a football game in the state of Texas? He's regarded as the best Texas high school football player ever.
And that's with, almost a quarter of the league. There's Texas football players.
So when you look at that, I can kind of understand some of it, but at the same time, you're a quarterback. You have to kind of step up, and I think the signing of AJ Green and JJ Watt are so evident of his lack of maturity because
Kyler's not a real leader. Especially they lost Fitzgerald too. Not to cut you off, I'm sorry. They lost Fitzgerald,
and that should speak to something because why the hell would Fitzgerald leave?
And Fitz, especially the way that Fitz left the game, he never officially retired. It was just more of a, well, are you going to come back? And now it's just assumed. And then the thought was too, well, Fitz is from Minnesota, and he was a ball boy for the Vikings as a kid.
Yeah.
And then they had
Randy
Cunningham,
Moss,
Chris Carter, and Randy Moss. He told a story about how that 98 season for them, he was there or whatever. And so the thought was that maybe he could go there because you go with Thielen, Jefferson. That would have even at his old ass age, that would have been nice.
I mean, yeah, he can work it in the slot.
Yeah.
And he's OG.
Yeah. And so, but yes, no, that does speak to kind of, and you've never heard Larry Fitzgerald come out. He doesn't necessarily trash Kyler, but like, I've never just heard him come out and say, man, he's a brilliant player. He's a hard worker. No, you don't hear these things about Kyler.
No.
You hear about how Kyler originally was going to be an Oakland A, soon to be Las Vegas A's. But you never hear, that's when I think of Kyler, I think of that.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say he fired his agent too, and it was kind of weird.
I've not heard his end, honestly, because he could stand to win way more money as a quarterback than he ever would have as an outfielder, shortstop.
Yeah, and the people who were trying to say that he walked away from baseball money, they don't understand how baseball money works. Because for one, you got to be in the majors for 6 years before you get a real deal, unless you're absolutely amazing and they back up that Brinks truck before arbitration.
Even if he doesn't get the $40 million standard, the new quarterback money. If somebody gave him 25, he still makes out better with that. The only thing that's bad about the NFL versus baseball, he's got a higher percentage of getting CTE and just serious injuries. But outside of that, I mean,
he's a quarterback in today's game, so that's even minimized more so than it was 10 years ago. But so if this Kyler Murray thing doesn't work and they have to move off of Kyler Murray, and there you go, back-to-back quarterbacks that you drafted in less than a 5-year span, Steve Keim, don't work, or in a 5-year span, actually. You can't keep your job. And, I mean, they hired Kliff just for Kyler. So Kliff might be going even with Kyler. Uh, are the Arizona Cardinals a fucking tire fire?
No, I mean, you got to think about it. They have made strides every year. They up until the last game of the season last year, they could have made the playoffs. They just needed to beat the Rams with their backup quarterback, but which is where my questions about Kyler came in. Because how do you dress out and sit on the sideline and basically you're saying you really can't go, but you will in an absolute emergency. And then when your team's down, I forgot how much they were down. They might have been down 10 or 8. It would have been a weird number, 9, some shit like that, maybe even 6 or 5. Then you step into the game, and it's almost like you're coming in to play hero ball or something like that. Like you're going to be, I'm the savior. Like, you know what I mean? But you're supposed to be protected. I guess it was a hamstring or something like that. And like, why didn't you just start the game and go until you couldn't? What was the point of sit?
Do like Street Clothes did in the playoffs against the Suns. We knew AD couldn't play. He was like, you know what? I'm going to try.
Him and think about KD too.
Oh, yeah,
KD,
when he
people forget KD sat out a whole year with the Nets because of that shit he did in the NBA Finals with the Warriors. He had missed games going into that Game 5. He suited up Game 5, was crushing the Raptors. Bro, he came out, he had like 12 points in the first quarter, was hurt by the start of the second, and it was it.
He was in there.
Yeah. But he was, bro. But I remember. I remember him busting their ass. Yeah.
I was at VJ house, and I'm like, oh, shit, boy, KD about to over with.
Yeah. And so with a guy like Kyler, though, it does strike you as, man, he does seem kind of like he could be a selfish dude. And this is a dude that's been the man his entire life. So, like, even in the NFL, short dude, yeah, he's a runner. Yeah, he's got an arm. He can throw. Like, obviously he's a multi-talented athlete. If you're drafted in the top 10 in baseball, you got to be he's a hell of an athlete.
Yeah, he can probably hoop too.
Now, he probably can, even at that height. He can probably shoot his ass off or something, or he's just really good at court vision or some shit. Like, he can play
good first step. Let's go with that one.
Yeah, yeah. Fucking Earl Boykin. But, no. I guess my point in saying that is that I think that he's doing this all to get that leverage. They hired Kliff for him. That's why they hired Kliff. They hired Kliff because they knew they were going to draft him.
Right.
And, Keim, where did Keim come from?
I don't know. Keep talking. I'll look it up, though.
Yeah. You bring in Keim. I think it's going to make a lot depending on where he came from.
I want to say Keim's been there for a minute, though, because I want to think
he was just a guy that got a promotion within.
He took the job in January 2013. So he was there for a long time.
The GM that long?
Yeah. And he's been with the organization since 14. So he was there for Carson Palmer years.
So, all right. So that's what I was about to say. So that Carson Palmer bought him some time.
Yeah. But he's been with the Cardinals since 99. So he's a Cardinals lifer. Jake the Snake days, baby.
Plummer, boy. Jake Plummer played Tom Brady in an AFC championship as the Broncos quarterback with Mike Shanahan as coach.
And Mike Shanahan somehow is not in the Hall of Fame, and Dick Vermeil is. Get the fuck out of here.
Jake Plummer, man. Jake fucking Plummer.
Hey, fix some pipes, Jake.
Right. Look, I'm sorry. I had to take a bite out of
I just know if I'm the owner and this Kyler thing doesn't work out, even if we get Deshaun Watson, Keim, you got to go, bro. I'm sorry. I've known you since you were a young boy. We raised you up in this organization. But I don't know if I want somebody who's been in my organization since 99 still there, because the Cardinals aren't the Ravens. You know what I mean? Like, it's different if you're the Ravens, who are
that is such an organization that does that kind of thing. Like, they
do their thing a certain way, and that's the way that they're going to do it.
Like them, the Steelers.
The Steelers, right? Like you need to grow up in those organizations in order to lead that organization, because they're going to do business the way that they do business. But come on, man, the Cardinals, that's not championship pedigree.
No, it isn't. It isn't. Matter of fact, before that Super Bowl, they really were like the losingest, like even over the Lions, they were like the losingest franchise.
Bro, when you were a kid playing Madden, you go pick your favorite team and you play against the Cardinals.
They tried to sign an old, worn down Emmitt Smith.
Yeah. They signed an old, worn down Kurt Warner, and then he fucking turned back into Kurt Warner.
Yeah.
An old, worn down Carson Palmer who turned back into Carson Palmer. But I just think you got to get rid of the KKK, man. And that's Kyler, that's Kliff, and that's Keim. Because if Kyler is this type of person, and we got to bring veterans around him to elevate his leadership, I don't want you running my franchise. Get the hell out of here, Kyler Murray.
Me neither.
Kliff, you're just not a good coach. Sorry. And Steve Keim, you have been the one who's made these plays. And sometimes you just got to cut the head off the snake, man. Sometimes people get fired just because, unless it's Atlanta and we're talking about Rich McKay.
Right. Well, Rich is a lifer. He's a football lifer, so he's a Falcon lifer.